Mr. President, for the record, I know of the plan, that in answer to the distinguished lady, I know of the plan to transfer Muntinlupa, or the National Bilibid prisons, to Fort Magsaysay in Laor, Nueva Ecija. As a matter of fact, even before that, I was proposing, it was during the time of President Estrada, I was proposing that we should remove the National Bilibid prisons there, and yes, and regionalize it. Let me go first to the Muntinlupa issue. I was thinking then that if we remove it, the NBP, the government can make a lot of money selling the entire area to universities and make it a university belt. It will be a growth corridor, Mr. President, instead of having the convicts and the criminals there. But my proposal then was for a regional penitentiary. Senator Relon knows this. Either he was chairman of finance or the Senate President then, when I submitted to him a study from the University of the Philippines wherein it says that the best way to handle the prison system in the Philippines is to regionalize it. Because based on research, itong mga nakukulong na preso, lalo na yung mga bagong preso, oras na hindi na dinadalaw ng pamilya, doon na nag-uumpisang magloko. Nagiging tarantado na, sumasali na rin sa mga gang at kung ano-ano ginagawa ng kagaguhan, pagka hindi na dinadalaw. Pero pag dinadalaw, iba ho ang dating. Eh ngayon, kung taga-Sultan Kudarat, nakulong sa Muntinlupa, how do you expect them to visit the family even once a year? Baka hindi kaya. Kaya po yung study na yun ay maganda na dapat i-regionalize. Kaya medyo I agree with Fort Magsaysay, but medyo nalulungkot ako ng konti, Mr. President, because they should have instead studied regionalizing instead of that. Mas madali pa po yung sinasabing segregation. Now, going to the issue that I brought up earlier, let me describe the context of why I was proposing an Alcatraz type. Sa media naman ang sabing Alcatraz eh. Ako, ang sabi ko po, ibang klase. Basta i-segregate yung mga high-level drug traffickers. Because there is no death penalty. My issue is, originally, I am for the reimposition of the death penalty for high-level drug trafficking. Now, for the record, in the 9th Congress, I was the principal author of the reimposition of the death penalty for drug trafficking. And as a matter of fact, I sponsored and delivered a turno and contra speech to Senator Joey Lina's proposal of life imprisonment to 30 years. Yun yung proposal niya nung una eh. But I delivered a turno and contra and proposed instead and sponsored reimposing the death penalty for high-level drug trafficking. Eh kaya lang, during the period of amendments, nadagdagan na, dumami na, karoon na ng kung ano-ano mga crimes na sinabat. Nevertheless, what happened, Mr. President, is that after I came back to the Senate in 2010, I was having second thoughts on the death penalty. And I was trying to find the solution na wag ko nang i-push uli. Sapagkat nakita ko po na may mga instances na talagang death sentence tapos talagang inosente. I have seen 1 or 2 cases na ganun eh. Kaya nakakatakot nga. I agree with them na nakakatakot. But in place of death penalty, kaya death penalty for the high-level drug traffickers, nakita nyo naman yung ginagawa eh. Nakakulong na, nag-ooperate pa eh. Nakakulong na, nag-ooperate pa eh. Konektado ito sa dalawang issue natin because ang sabi ni J.B. Sebastian, tinanong siya kahapon, kung wala kayong telepono, ano magagawa niyo pa ba ito? Ang sagot niya, hindi. In other words, Mr. President, according to the drug dealers in the National Bilibid prisons, no phone, no business.
Yes.
Pag sinegregate mo sila, no cell site. Hindi mo na kailangan ng jammer. No cell site, no telephone, no nothing. I will be... Mas mabait pa nga yun kaysa sa death penalty, pero mas maganda yun. Hayaan nyo silang mabulok doon sa kulungan, pero nakahiwalay sila. At hindi nila ma-influensaan at hindi nila mabentahan yung mga ibang mga inmates na nalululong na rin later on sapagkat for one reason or another. So, that is the reason, Mr. President, to the distinguished lady from Bicol, that is the reason that I proposed to segregate them, the high-level drug trafficking convicts, because I could not. I was having second thoughts on reimposing the death penalty for them, or for high-level drug traffickers. And besides, Mr. President, the law cannot be retroactive. Therefore, prospective lang. Kung may i-reimpose natin ang death penalty, para lang doon sa mga magiging convicted high-level drug trafficking in the future, but not now. Therefore, lahat itong mga nakakulong na ito na mga high-level drug dealers, hindi rin ma-meet ng death penalty like what the other people would like to do. So that is the reason that I want them segregated. Kung pwede, isang island sa kung saan lupalop. Baka nga pwede, doon na sa island na nakaharap sa West Philippine Sea. Para sila maunang lusubin, just in case. That is the reason, Mr. President, Madam Senator.
With the permission of Senator De Lima, just one question to the majority leader so we will not lose the trend of thought.
Senator De Lima is recognized.
No
with problem, the permission. Mr. President.
Yes, I note with interest the proposition of the majority leader that in lieu of death penalty, if we can provide for a separate facility segregated from the rest for drug cases,
inmates, yeah. So,
impose life imprisonment without parole, and segregate them. And to me, this can be done retroactively because you are not imposing, you are not changing the penalty.
Correct.
It's still life imprisonment if it's life imprisonment, except that you change the facility. Now, if that kind of a provision can be inserted in the whatever that death penalty bill that will come up for debate, would the gentleman from Quezon City vote against the reimposition of death penalty if there is this provision?
if there is this provision and it is done, most probably, Mr. President.
Yeah,
As I said, I am already having second thoughts.
so there is a chance that the gentleman will vote against the reimposition of the death penalty under these conditions.
Yeah, under these conditions, yes, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Mr. President, I'm actually very happy
Senator De Lima is recognized.
that the President pro temp is able to extract that statement from the good majority floor leader about his change of mind. It's possible change of mind about the death penalty. We need not push for the death penalty if we truly fix our criminal justice system and our correctional system. And talking about the correctional system, I'm also for the regionalization of the prison facilities. And we can start that with the transfer of the new Bilibid prison to that new facility that would cater for the prisoners within Luzon, for example. And then put up later other detention facilities for purposes of catering to prisoners in the other areas in Visayas and in Mindanao. That is one way of decongesting, that is one way of reforming our penitentiary system. And added to that, aside from regionalization, I've been pushing also for a unified penitentiary system, because we have varied penitentiary systems now, one system for the convicted prisoners and another system for the detention prisoners. I think it's time also to consider the unification of our penitentiary system to avoid overlapping of jurisdictions, conflict of jurisdictions, turf wars between and among relevant agencies of government. So those are among the possible legislative solutions to the well-entrenched, deep-seated, long-standing problems and ills besetting our correctional system. So segregation, Yes, within those facilities, segregation of hardened core or hardcore, hardened criminals as against the ordinary inmates, and of course proper implementation, proper enforcement by incorruptible prison officials and prison guards. Then going back to the issue, Mr. President, about the use of cell phones in the Bilibid, not only in the National Bilibid Prison, it's also prevalent in other detention facilities, even under BJMP, because cell phones are considered the most valuable commodity in any detention facilities, because access to cell phones would mean access to their cohorts outside the prison. So not just addressing about the registration of SIM cards, but also how to enforce a complete, absolute ban on the use of cell phones within the penitentiary, especially Bilibid. I've been trying when I was the Secretary of Justice. That was a very clear and strict rule on my part, the ban on the entry and the use of cell phones. But obviously, or apparently, because of corruption, because of the connivance of certain prison guards, kaya po hindi naiiwasan o hindi naaalis yung problema na yan tungkol sa paggamit ng cell phones within the facility. So reforms indeed are necessary.
Thank you. Mr. President, yes, I agree. But removing the cell sites or the cell site near the penitentiaries would be one solution. As I said, if we segregate them, no cell site whatsoever. Because, you see, even if you were able or if you were successful during your time as SOJ, do not allow cell phones inside the penitentiary, the prison guards have cell phones.
Exactly.
All they have to do is bribe the prison guard. They can use the SIM card. And these prison guards are paid 12,000 a month, Mr. President. O, bigyan mo ng 20 million, nanginginig yun. Sa tuwa, amin. Dahil pagagamitin lang niya yung cellphone, sandali, sabi niya, tawagan ko lang yung asawa ko. 1 minute lang paggamit. Ito, 20 mil. You think he will not succumb to that? Kaya po importante, walang cell site. Pati mga gwardya, kahit magdala sila ng 100 cellphone, hindi nila makagamit.
In
that's another thought,
in relation to that, that is why we push for the Bucor modernization law. So it was enacted into law in 2013, although the implementing rules and regulations have been recently adopted. And that's why we pushed for that, because of the very meager salary or compensation level on the part of the prison guards compared to their counterparts in the BJMP. So it's time for full implementation of the Bucor modernization law. And going back to the death penalty, and that is why this representation has filed an alternative bill, qualified reclusion perpetua bill, increasing the number of years for reclusion perpetua from 30 years to 40 years, also without the possibility of parole. We can do it. We can address the problems besetting the criminal justice system and the correctional system without resorting to death penalty. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. By the way, I was given the assurance by Senator Grace Poe, that the Committee on Public Services will prioritize the issue on SIM card registration, Mr. President. Yes.
Senator Poe is recognized.
Yes, yes, Mr. President, we will actually, I just wanted for the record that we will prioritize the 5 different bills on SIM card registrations filed by Senators Gatchalian, of course, Senator Sotto, Senator Gordon, Senator Lacson, and Senator Legarda. I believe that when it comes to safety issues, eradicating criminality and terrorism, this will be a big help. So yes, sometime in November. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was Senator Gatchal, or it could be Villanueva. Either way, I will prioritize this measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
President, by the way, for the record, I would like to manifest that Senator Manny Pacquiao is a co-author of Senate Bill number 7, Mr. President. Thank you. Mr. President.
Senator Pacquiao is recognized
And
as a
Senator
co-author.
Subiri likewise be made co-author, Mr.
The
President.
late Senator Subiri is recognized as well.
Yeah. May we recognize Senator Ontiveros, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the good majority leader, in relation to one of the points you raised, in relation to your main bill, yung tungkol po dun sa paglilipat ng mga inmates ng Bilibid dun po sa Nueva Ecija. I share your concern, Mr. President, that we need to decongest Bilibid to improve our congestion rates. New Bilibid prisons report a congestion rate of 181%, with more than 23,000 prisoners staying in a facility built originally for a maximum of 9,000 inmates. So I would like to seek the wisdom of the President and the author. Would it be possible that executive clemency be considered for those in their old age or those terminally ill on humanitarian grounds? If that were something that could be considered, then inmate records could be reviewed for the purpose of granting parole to the deserving and releasing of those who have actually served their sentences already. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President, why not? I believe so, especially to those who are, 80 years old or above. I agree. We should look into it, Mr. President.
Thank you so much for that openness, Mr. President. Good author.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, I move that we refer my manifestations, my privileged speech, and the ensuing interpellations to the Committee on Public Services and the Committee on Justice, Mr. President.
There's a motion, any objection? Hearing none, the